evening and welcome to the India Development Debate. I'm Tamanna Inamdar and we have an action-packed show for you this evening. Let me quickly take you through what we will be discussing, the key issues that we're touching upon. Of course, we're talking about the ban on another 118 Chinese apps, including the very popular PUBG, which comes after two sets of provocations from the Chinese at the line of actual control. That's going to be the big story we will dive into this evening. We are also looking at the Facebook hearing. A standing committee of Parliament has summoned Facebook officials and others to talk about their role in influencing Indian citizens. They're being accused of playing favorites by both sides of the political divide. In fact, I will have with me one of the people who deposed at this meeting. And in the India Revival Mission, we speak to Nokia today. We have with us Senior Vice President Sanjay Malik. So a great show lined up for you, but let's get straight to the top story. So there have been two sets of provocation from China at the line of actual control in Ladakh. The skirmishes which started a few months ago have not really ended, and in fact India has been pushing back China. So those tensions remain. In the midst of all of that, we have the decision earlier this evening that an additional 118 apps, this is over and above that were banned earlier and then their clones which were banned after that, an additional 118 apps have been banned, which include the very popular PUBG that has been downloaded over 17 crore times in India. In fact, India accounts for 24% of all the downloads of PUBG. There are a host of other gaming apps and different kinds of apps as well on this list. Now the question is, will this hurt China? Is this the right approach to hitting back? Are we seeing sort of a pattern over here on how India responds to these provocations, and how far can we take this strategy? To speak on this, I'm joined today by Anand, Lunia, General Partner of Indiaquotient. I'm speaking today with Michael Kugelman of the Wilson Center, and very pleased to welcome on the show Keerti Singh, who's co-founder of Hitwicket Superstars. That's a gaming company as well, and a winner of the Atmanirbhar app contest. Recently, it came at the #1 spot. So welcome to all of you and thank you for speaking with us today. In fact, Keerti, let me begin by just getting your response on what has happened. We saw a similar pattern when TikTok was banned. Of course, the Indian players see this as a huge boost for them. Is that really your first reaction, that this is a huge opportunity for you and others like you, Indian game makers?
Yeah, so we were talking about the number of users that PUBG has acquired in India. If you talk in terms of revenue, the gaming market in India today is predominantly dominated by the Western developers and the Chinese developers. I mean, PUBG is estimated to have generated close to $100 million from Indian gamers. So that's the potential of the market that we are talking about. I mean, today, India is #1 in terms of game downloads. But when it comes to revenue, the significant portion of this revenue is going outside the country. And, when you talk about a digital good, right, it's very easy for gaming companies which are settled abroad to add India to their market, right? There's not much additional infrastructure that is needed. But if a gaming industry culminates out of India with homegrown apps, you can imagine the kind of ecosystem, the employment opportunities that it's going to generate. And traditionally, if you see mobile gaming from zero to $70 billion in less than 15 years, that's telling you that the industry has taken the world by storm. And Prime Minister Modi's Atmanirbhar challenge, I think it was right on the pulse of the youth, that gaming is the new age soft power to engage with the youth. And this is the direction that, is going to inspire, it's going to create opportunities for Indian developers to think big, to think global. And I think this seed was sown with the Atmanirbhar challenge. And I do see a great morale boost to the Indian developers who've always thought that, it's a matter of opportunity, it's a matter of chance. The Chinese and the US game developers, they saw mobile gaming hit them
Keerti,
first.
if I may ask you,
sure.
Yes, Keerti, if I may ask you, because we saw a similar pattern when TikTok was banned, and the fact is that all of these users, these crores and crores of users, have not really and do not really distinguish from the origin of who has created that game. They want a game which is easy to use, which is fun, which is interactive, etc., etc. There has been no barrier for Indian gaming companies to excel. Why do you think they haven't been at the top of the heap so far? And do you really think that what some would dub as a protectionist move is required to give Indian companies a chance?
All right. So when mobile gaming started, I think it came to India a bit late. If you talk about 2012 when Supercell released Clash of Clans, it came to India. And it was around 2014 or 15 that people got exposed to that quality of the game. And it was only, I would say, the last 3 years or so that there has been a lot of buzz about mobile gaming in India. The Western developers have had the opportunity in terms of the team, the capability, the finances, where they were ahead, a lot ahead of India in terms of the kind of products they were making. And again, when it comes to digital products, right, when you're there on the Play Store, you have access to the best games in the world, right? But when it comes to physical things, right, if you want to go and eat out in a restaurant, you're not going to go to Paris, right? You will have the taste of what is right outside physically available to you. But in gaming, the benchmark is super duper high. You know, you have the best of the games out there, which have had a very, very strong ecosystem right from the start. I would say that this ecosystem has started to show in India probably 3 years back. And I think Geo was one of the turning points where people realized that, okay. Mobile gaming is mass market. Anybody can download a game and start playing it. That's when things turned for India. And like I said, gaming is extremely competitive because you're competing with the world best. And any sort of stimulus to the ecosystem, yes, that's what help the developers.
Okay, Anand, Lunia, we're back here again. I think the last time we spoke was after the second, lot of Me Too Chinese apps or copycat apps were banned. Is there a pattern to this? And do you think it really makes a dent? Now that is the big question, because I remember very clearly when TikTok was first banned, there was a lot of commentary on, how does it matter? TikTok doesn't make much of its revenue from India. Is it really just a statement more than anything else? But lo and behold, it sort of has had a domino effect. You've had the United States thinking of banning TikTok, and TikTok itself is in quite a disarray. One can argue it all started with the India ban. Do you think this will have a similar impact? Does it really hit where it needs to hurt?
I think, what started as a defensive move, Tamanna, you are right, is looking like a good offensive move. Data is the new oil. After importing almost everything that we use on a daily basis, China was looking forward to importing data and data-driven products also, right? We talked about that last time. What's happening is that, what we've realized in the last 1 month, right? The government saw that TikTok was banned, a few other apps, like almost 50 apps were banned, and the country did very fine, right? People were like, oh, the consumer will not have a choice and all of that. I think we did very fine. We are slowly realizing that some of these things we don't need to import from outside, right? Keerti very well said that the ecosystem that is created with local apps, and by the way, let's not kid ourselves, right? Not all foreign apps are banned. Only Chinese apps are banned here, right? Even after this 118, the top 100 apps in the gaming space will be largely dominated by global apps only. Maybe from Singapore, maybe from Hong Kong, maybe from US, maybe from Europe. But we need to capture the wealth. We need to say that the companies have to be based in India. It could be a Chinese company, wants to be based in India, wants to list here, do an IPO, have Indian shareholders, be under Indian control. That's what we want. We want to capture the value here. We want to capture the wealth here. We want the entire ecosystem to grow here. We don't want call center jobs for our people, right? We want technical jobs for our people. Only if the capabilities and Keerti is right. Why are we lagging behind? Because broadband came late, and then our developers didn't have a head start. The global developers have probably a 10, 20-year head start in terms of developing games. Can our companies do it? I think we'll be surprised, right? I mean, look at the number of apps that were launched after TikTok was banned, right? Including the Atmanirbhar challenge. I mean, so many apps are coming out. This is a big boost. I hope it continues. I also want to make a point about non-Chinese apps. And there is a tyranny of algorithms, tyranny of policies, which large social media apps are continuing in the country. Facebook is facing scrutiny both in Europe and US. India is not doing that enough. We also need to have regulations for global apps which are not Chinese. And that will sort of make the whole thing comprehensive.
Okay. So we have to look at the context in which this decision is taken. And Michael Kugelman, I'd like your view on the move as a strategy. And clearly, it's part of a bigger plan. I mean, we've had news just a few minutes ago, a little while ago, that an anti-dumping duty on a certain product imported from China, that's float glass, which is used in skyscrapers, etc., has been extended for another 3 months. One can assume that we will see other such moves up ahead. Does it fit into a broader strategy that we've seen coming in from India against Chinese aggression, that we will hit you on trade, we will cut our dependence on you and hit you where it hurts? Do you think it seems like a successful one?
Well, yes, I mean, India is looking for ways to retaliate against China. With the relationship with China worse than it's been in many years, it's looking for ways to retaliate economically. I mean, there are limited means of military retaliation at this point, given the context of the borders dispute in Ladakh. And so I think that it's understandable and logical, and certainly I think politically popular decision to make to have this latest round of bans on these apps coming after the ones that were made, the bans on 59 apps several months ago. So I think the question for me, one of the questions is this part of a broader trend on the part of India to commercially cut off China? And that raises some interesting questions, given the significant commercial partnership that India and China have had over the years, even though there have been political and security tensions. And I think that that's certainly something to consider, given the economic slowdown that India has experienced over the last few months plus, which goes, of course, it preceded the pandemic. It's gotten worse from that. And a number of key sectors that have been hit quite hard in this slowdown include sectors that China has contributed to significantly, including the broader telecom sector. So I think what our other two panelists have said very much agree with, and I think that the opportunities for Indian developers, for Indian gamers are significant if India is moving in this direction of trying to push out Chinese apps, which have had such a significant impact in India. That's a good thing. But I do wonder about the feasibility, at least in the near term, of trying to cut off China commercially. That's certainly something to consider. And looking at this in a broader, more global context, as you mentioned, Tamanna, the U.S., the Trump administration has talked about banning a number of these apps. The U.K. has also talked about banning Chinese apps. There could be some very striking broader global consequences, such as what this could mean for big companies like Apple, for example.
Yeah.
What type of implications could these app bans have on Apple and on iPhones, and more broadly for the international business community, implications for its competitiveness operating in China. So there are a lot of broader consequences to think here. But the last point I'll make is that I think it would be incorrect to assume that by banning this latest round of apps that India could somehow affect the state of play in Ladakh, and it could affect how China is thinking about its military activities on Ladakh. We saw that after the initial 59 apps were banned, it didn't really change much. It didn't really, I think, have any type of impact on China's thinking about where it would withdraw, where it would not along the LAC. I don't think things will be any different now. So I think that the bigger question is what type of economic implications, economic impact this could have for China. And I defer to others that know more about China's economy than I do. But these are significant.
I think another aspect of this whole conversation, if I may come in, Michael, another aspect of this whole conversation are the reasons given for the ban? And as was in the earlier case, the official communication from the government doesn't say the word Chinese apps. It says apps which seem to have attacked the sovereignty and are moving Indian data out of the country to foreign servers, etc. In fact, I just want to play out a small clip of what Ravi Shankar Prasad, Union Minister, has said on this matter. Let's just listen in.
We have also banned 118 apps more, which were problem from the point of view of security, surveillance, and rights of Indians as far as data is concerned. India has become the third biggest startup movement in the country. And just to elaborate on what Virat said, and it's very important, the special link incentive, all the top companies, whether it is Samsung or all the contract manufacturers of Apple, have come to India. They have committed investment of worth 1.5 billion.
Mr. Lunia, I just want your take on the global impact, because if at the base of this decision, India says is security concerns, that we are worried that our citizens' data is being utilized and seen and passed through by the Chinese government. Now, that's a concern that is likely to be shared in other parts of the world as well, and that's where the real impact lies?
It should lie, Tamanna, but I must tell you that China has become so strong and become a powerhouse in terms of exporting everything to all over the world because of the fact that Western governments have sort of neglected the balance of power going in the favor of China. It is good to see the American president noticing what India has done. American government. However, I must say, still haven't. They only have threatened to ban TikTok. They haven't. I don't think that they see immediately as a security threat. Right? I also don't think that even if there are loopholes in these apps, I don't think the Chinese government is planning to use that as a security threat or a snooping device against the Western powers, because the retaliation will be stronger. But yes, I think they are forced to notice, they are forced to scrutinize. And given the fact that it's proving very popular in terms of vote banks in India, right? I think quite a few Western countries should be emulating. Right? I mean, it's giving political dividends, and that's a good thing. Right? I mean, if we take the lead, and it's working out, and governments should be emulating. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm yet to watch out what happens to TikTok. I'll not say that it's really had a big impact, real impact on the ground till TikTok is actually banned or actually sold. We haven't seen that yet.
Yeah. I mean, their top guy quit. They've been threatened to sell in the United States. The Chinese government is saying no, you can't sell. It's not an enviable situation. I want to get a quick word from Michael Kugelman on that same question. If the premise is that these apps need to be banned because of security concerns, wouldn't those concerns be shared by others, including in the United States?
Oh, absolutely. And I think it gets caught up in this very deep, bitter U.S.-China rivalry. I think that U.S. officials, including Trump administration officials, including the president himself, I think are happy to bring attention to that concern. And I think that, if you go before the American people and talk about how these Chinese apps pose a security threat, a privacy threat to Americans, certainly I think that would resonate pretty significantly across the American public. And, this being an election year, I think that's a message that we may hear, and we've already been hearing it to an extent from U.S. officials, but we could hear it more. But I think that's an important point, that justifying these moves, justifying these bans as a security or as a privacy move, that's significant, more so than it is a move to push back against China economically or anything like that. I think that justifying it as an issue of necessity because of privacy and national security reasons, I think that will resonate pretty significantly across populations, certainly in the United States and the UK and elsewhere, where there's been some talk about about making these types of
Yes.
decisions. But indeed, as was mentioned before, important to highlight that in the US and other places, there have been a lot of threats to actually do these bans and things like that, but there hasn't actually been formal bans, formal actions just yet. So I think it's important not to get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. That is true, and it is also true that TikTok is possibly looking at challenging any kind of a ban as an affront to freedom of speech, etc. in the United States. So it's more complex than it seems on the face of it. But yes, that's the big news story of the day. PUBG joins the list of Chinese apps banned in India. It's a move that will definitely have repercussions. Will it have any impact on what happens on the LAC? Truly is the big question. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us on The Big Story.